This will be an in-depth look at the process of buying a boat in Turkey. We found little information about this, so hopefully it helps. Here are the 12 steps that we will go through. To make it easier, we've listed the exact time for each point in the description. It's an exciting time, but it can also be quite scary spending a large chunk of your hard-earned cash. Hopefully this video makes the process less daunting and helps limit potential pitfalls. We got some surprises and we'll go through these in the video.
We won't spend much time on this. In part one we mentioned that you should do your research. You should know the extras, how much they cost, and you should have a fair idea of the market value. First thing, start low with your price. The seller will want to sell, so make sure that your first initial offer is within your budget and you have room to move. Negotiation stage, it's always handy to have a second boat that the agent thinks you're interested in. That way he's going to fight to get the sale. It's also advantageous to know the prices of other boats similar to yours that have sold. That way you can help justify your offer. Obviously you want the lower priced sales. The third thing that I would recommend is trying to get some additional extras within the sale. Something that we did was that we negotiated the marina berth. It's not something that cost the seller anything because he had a long-term contract on the berth. We got an additional 2 months rent-free, and this helped us during the registration and maintenance stage as they are quite lengthy.
At this point we signed the contract, subject to survey and sea trial. It was already in English and was a Mediterranean Yacht Brokers Association contract. It was important to read through everything before signing, ensure all inventory was included, ensure any special clauses were included. For example, we had the marina free of charge and the dates to use it written in. We also made a note and were aware of all the time frames and ensured they were sufficient, and double check all amounts stated in the contract. It's getting a bit chilly now. This is probably pretty obvious, but just thought we'd mention it. You've signed the contract now, so you may not be able to get out of it unless you find any major defects or problems with the boat. So hopefully you don't want to change your mind now. We paid 10% deposit at this point to the broker's account. We shopped around and found a good money transfer company, World First, as the banks can charge 7 times more to transfer money internationally. In transferring a large amount, we were able to negotiate a better rate as well. Check with your financial provider how long it will take to transfer the money and also what extra documents you may need. We had to send a copy of the contract of the sale of the boat to ours, and someone else that we know had to send a lot of different documents, and it ended up delaying his settlement and costing him a couple of $1,000s more than it should have. So double check that one, because sending money to Turkey can be seen as a security risk. It could be potentially that you're funding terrorism, so they like to really check it out, so make sure you do that.
This one is very important and can save you thousands in the long run. We did lots of research on Noonsite, cruising forums and online reviews. Brokers will always tell you they know a good surveyor. I would suggest to avoid if possible, as it may not be a fully independent opinion. We found a reputable English-speaking surveyor who we were extremely happy with. His name was Joe Rolls. We'll put his info in the description. A good surveyor will be very thorough and will find problems no matter how good the boat. The surveyor's opinion and what he finds will allow you to negotiate around what needs to be fixed, getting a price reduction, or if you should terminate the sale if there are any major problems. The sea trial and survey is a long process, which includes a sea trial first in the water and a survey on the hard afterwards. The choice is yours how detailed you want it to be. There's also an option to get the engine oil analysed. We'd recommend doing as much as you can, and we wouldn't buy a boat without pulling it out of the water. This is very important to analyse the hull and make sure there is no osmosis or damage, amongst other things.
Once you've received your report from the surveyor, you usually have a couple of options. We did with ours, but that depends on your contract, so please check the fine print. Any major defect, you may be able to terminate the contract and get your deposit back, but again, that depends on the contract you've signed. You may also be able to get the items fixed by the seller, or if possible, I'd recommend that you get a price reduction and get the jobs done by yourself. If you do decide that the seller is going to fix the items, you need to agree on a time frame, and that needs to be written so the work is completed before you've paid the final sum. This will also allow you to inspect the work after it's been completed. Make sure the contract is updated and it's clear to the seller what is expected from you, the buyer.
Agents are expensive. They do a lot of things though, and I really wouldn't have liked to have gone through the process without them. But yeah, it's just a good idea to definitely do your research. You will have to give the agent power of attorney, as will the seller. They'll look after lots of things, lots of the paperwork and the legal aspects of the sale. They'll organise the bill of sale, the deletion certificate, your transit log, the deflagging. They'll organise the notary and any sales taxes if applicable, and they'll also organise all of the export process. This is an important one. We were overcharged on our invoice $2,000, which we thought was excessive. It was listed as notary fees and taxes, so we questioned it, and they sent us some documents, but we still weren't happy. So we were fortunate enough that we'd already been in contact with an Australian who'd bought through the same broker and used the same agency, and he was kind enough to send us his receipt, and he didn't have that on it. So we were very skeptical, as he'd only bought a few months prior to us. So we questioned it again further, and eventually we were advised that the notary may charge this fee, and we said, well, if they do, then we'd like a receipt, and eventually we weren't actually charged the amount, so be careful on that one. So in total, our agency fees cost us $3,250. That included everything except for some express postage to send things back to Australia, and it also included translations. So yeah, I guess that's around what you can expect to pay. You might be able to get a better deal. We were a little skeptical to give an agency power of attorney, but it all ran smoothly and we really couldn't have done it without doing it. You have to go to a notary. There's quite a few of them around Turkey, so your broker should give you details about which one to go to exactly, and they'll organise a translator for you once you get there. It took us about half an hour, and it cost 700 Turkish lira for their fees and the translator fees. We also had to get a temporary tax file number, which you will have to go to the tax agent to get. Make sure that you take a photocopy of your passport with you. We didn't, and it made it very difficult because they actually don't photocopy it for you. Apparently they don't have a photocopier. So yes, it's much more convenient if you take a copy with you. It is a temporary tax file number, so just make sure that the time frame that you have it for covers the whole time that it takes for the contract to go through and until settlement date.
You need to organise insurance before you send final payment. There are plenty of providers. We went with Topsail, an Australian company. Topsail also provided translation into Greek, Italian and Spanish, as these countries require this when entering into the country. You will need to be prepared and have transferred all the money to the company in charge of your international money transfer. Some banks have limits for daily transfer, so check ahead of time so you aren't caught out. International money transfers also take 2 to 4 days. You now own the boat. Woo!
Our agent sent all necessary original documents to Australia for us. We had to email the rest to the Australian Shipping Registrar. I assume all countries are different. For us, we had to post the original bill of sale and the deletion certificate to Australia. Once the Australian Shipping Registrar received this, they sent us another document to complete about renaming the boat. We had to send the originals back to Australia. Again, we had to send it express postage. The original registration document is required in Turkey for the export, so it needs to be shipped over quite quickly. We requested express postage with delivery to the marina. Once we received this, we were ready to export. We had to export the boat within 2 months of the sale date, which meant we had to leave Turkey and check into Greece. On the day we left, we organised to meet our agent that morning. We gave him passports, bill of sale, deletion certificate, ICC, original registration, and he took them all to the harbour master, port police, customs, and completed all the paperwork required. For us, it took him about 2 to 3 hours. We were then required to dinghy to port police and customs to collect the paperwork before we received our transit log and needed to leave Turkey for Greece. For us, there were no other payments we need to make. We arrived to Rhodes late in the evening and everything was closed, so we anchored overnight and headed into our Greek agent first thing in the morning.
Now we have to wait. I've given all our details to McAllister's, our agent in Rhodos. So I've given him our registration, our passports. It's really important that you also give your insurance details. You need it printed when you get here, and also ICC or whichever driving boat license you have. So yeah, now we wait. I believe it's going to take about an hour to an hour and a half.
Thanks for watching. Hope it's been helpful or will be helpful for you if you're looking to buy a boat in Turkey or Europe.
Just a little disclaimer, this is just our experience, so make sure you do your own research.
Yes.
See you next week.
Bye.